panel during the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, where the global community gathers to advance gender equality and justice. I would like to begin with a brief reflection on Women's Intercultural Network and the plight of Afghan women for equality. In May 2022, a delegation from Women's Intercultural Network traveled to Afghanistan. I was part of that delegation and began building relationship with courageous Afghan women leaders and activists. From that engagement, we established what we call our Afghan Circle, a space for solidarity, dialogue, and collective advocacy. A year later, after a selection process through UN and activists and leaders in Afghanistan, gender equality leaders, after a selection process jointly with Afghan women activists, we welcomed a delegation of Afghan women to California, strengthening our collaboration and deepening our commitment to stand alongside Afghan women's struggle for gender equality. Among our most important partners at the time was Afghan Women Network, a sister organization. This year's CSW theme centered on gender justice, yet gender justice cannot be realized while women anywhere in the world are systematically denied their basic human rights. Today, Afghan women face one of the most severe and institutionalized forms of gender discrimination in the world. The systematic exclusion of women and girls from education, employment, public life, and even freedom of movement represent not only discrimination, but a system of gender domination that many experts now recognize as gender apartheid. As affirmed by the People Tribunal of Women of Afghanistan in December 2025, these policies amount to crime against humanity. We cannot remain silent in the face of gender apartheid or the pervasive violence Afghan women endure both in public and private spheres. Today's panel brings together advocates and voices connected to Afghan women lived realities. Our goal is not only to document injustice, but to explore pathways toward accountability, justice, and international action. Most importantly, we gather in solidarity with Afghan women to listen, to learn, and at the center of global advocacy for gender justice. Thank you very much for being here. Now, I want to introduce, we had a different order for speakers, but I want to introduce Marcel Sayas first, so she opened till the other two speakers of us, which one is in Sweden, and the other one is in another country. I forgot what country she's from, Hoda, to join us. Marcel is a journalist, human rights defender, and founder, CEO of Femmes de des Frontières, Women Beyond Borders, a Paris-based organization championing advocacy and human rights education amid Taliban oppression. She dedicated nearly a decade to human rights and freedom of expression in her homeland, serving as a new anchor, women's rights advocates in the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, Women's Rights Department, and human rights trainer in its educational unit until Taliban August 2021 takeover forces her into exile in France. From exile, Sayas has transformed personal ambitions into global impact, producing human rights podcasts and shows for Afghanistan International Radio, delivering speeches at high-profile venues like European Parliament, France Feminist Foreign Policy Conference, and France 24 interviews, while authoring dozens of articles and reports for international media and institutions. She has published many books and articles, originally written in Persian and translation to French, with an initial, her book, 7,000 copies are sold, and unleashed testimonies of Afghan women suffering, child brides, rape survivors, and victims of domestic violence and enslavement, drawn from her investigation. In 2025, she co-authored Voices in Exile, a guide for human rights defender with the International Partnership for Human Rights, empowering exile activists to navigate advocacy, resilience, and systematic barriers like financial instability and employment discrimination. She launching her podcast, Shekar, in early 2026, Sayas, overcome the stigmatization of women's body, taboos, and misogynist traditions under Taliban rule and patriarchal societies. Thank you very much, Marcel John, for being here. And we're going to start with you, and hopefully our other panelists going to join us.
Hi, Lahjan, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and talking about Afghanistan women and whatever is going on in Afghanistan right now. You asked where is Huda is based. Huda is based in Norway. Yes, I really am so happy to talk about Afghanistan women's situation today because among all the wars running the world, so we forgot to talk about Afghanistan, and meanwhile Taliban are normalizing the slavery in Afghanistan. While we were advocating for recognition of gender apartheid and comparing that as with racial apartheid in South Africa and whatever was happening, and this is happening in Afghanistan at the same way, but just by dividing the gender and anyone who supports women and human rights in Afghanistan. Today, I really want to mention this. The Taliban, they went a bit more far away, and now they are applying a system of slavery in Afghanistan. On early 2026, in January, they published their penal code, which they don't call it penal code. The only two legal document they published are this PVPV law and also the penal code. In penal code, they have 119 articles, which all of them are violencing the human rights, and they are legalizing the violence against women in Afghanistan. Why I really keep emphasizing to say they are creating this system of slavery, because they mention the terms in their law, in this new law, the enslaved people and free people. They're splitting the people in Afghanistan, the society, into the castes right now. So we have the superior castes, we have the nobles, we have the enslaved, and we have the others. This law permits the people to punish even the children. What they call it tazir, those punishments the people can be punished for the crimes that the Taliban didn't even. There are a lot of illusion for the dividing the crimes. If a woman is raped, it's not a crime. If she goes to the Taliban justice, that's a crime, and she would be punished for being raped. Or, for example, the domestic violence is not recognized anymore. If the women bones are not broken, they cannot go to the justice. And even if it's broken and they go and they prove that, so their husband would be punished or arrested for 15 days. And even if you want to help this woman who has broken bones, you would be arrested and imprisoned for 3 months. They also are legalizing punishment of the children. The children under 18, they can be publicly punished. Before this law, the Taliban were punishing the women and the people in the society for different crimes in public. It was their court who were applying the punishment. But today they want the male member of the family to apply the punishment. They are calling them honor of the women. Women are the property, children are the property of the men and their masters. They really use the terms of master. Like if a woman is under the supervision or is controlled by their master, so their master are the people who can allow those women what to do or not. And even if a woman crime is the crime that Taliban call them crime, it's like always inside the human. So if this woman is, if it's proved that women is criminal for going out, for wearing colorful clothes, or for talking loud outside, or for dancing, for writing, for reading, for watching TV, for being in social media. All those things are crimes. And if this crime is proved, so now the families, the male member can apply, the male members or the masters can apply this punishment on women. It means they are provoking every single man in the society against the women. So now, before I used to also advocate a lot for the gender apartheid campaign, and I do it right now. But this recent thing is just the slavery. It's the slavery of the women in the 21st century, and not acceptable, not human. In 119 articles, all of them they violence the human rights, the women rights, and the children rights. And there is no justice for women to go and to ask for justice even if they want the women and there are a way to go to the justice. Let's consider this example in this article that a woman with broken bones, they can go to the court and they ask the Taliban justice system to make their husbands accountable even for 15 days. How they can go with which mahram or chaperone? Who can they ask their fathers or brothers if save them? They would be considered as criminals because escaping from home and from violence today in Afghanistan is a crime. So they cannot go with that husband. They cannot go with their brothers and fathers. Even if they find a way to go to this justice system, they will complain to who? To the judge, to the male judge who are the Taliban, which consider going to the court as a shameful act for women. All these acts, all these articles are violencing the human rights, the women rights, in a very grave and harsh situation. All the women literature, the women articles, the women books are removed from the universities. Any poem, any literature work or women in science, they can any of their work cannot be taught in the schools or universities because it's considered as haram and it's prohibited to talk to to teach those women's projects or writings or articles or women's science or achievements on the schools system. So it's not only the now the apartheid was there; it's still there, but they are going more further and applying this slavery system, and they are making the women the slaves of the society, the slave of the men, and they are provoking the society, the men against women. Of course, the situation of minorities, the ethnic groups, the languages, those are not better than women. So today we are talking about gender apartheid, and that was my focus for today. Let's focus on this law, which they are proving. Before we had to prove that Taliban are applying gender apartheid, we had to gather and document the cases. We had to talk to the witnesses. We had to talk to the victims, the survivors. But today, the Taliban, with this law, they proved this. And I think they made it easier for us to see how apartheid is being applied in Afghanistan. And really, it's really important to document the situation. But the Taliban are giving us the proof simply. We can go to that and we can mention that and we have the references. We really don't need excuses to make apartheid, to codify apartheid under the criminal law. So we have the proofs, we have the documents, we have everything to recognize apartheid in Afghanistan. For now, that was all I wanted to update and talk. Let me know if you have any question later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcel John. I'm glad we have Latifa John from Sweden joining us here. Latifa John, welcome. I know the time of US has changed, not the Europe, so that always creates some confusion. But I'm pleased to introduce you to the audience. Latifa Ahmadi was born in Afghanistan. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and you are perfect. Latifa Ahmadi was born in Afghanistan on March 1982 and completed her primary and secondary education in neighboring countries. She got her bachelor degree from Kabul Educational University, Faculty of English Literature, and master degree in international relations from Avicenna, if I'm pronouncing, University in Kabul, Afghanistan. She dedicated her life to empower women to break the chain of oppression, discrimination, and violence against women. She, as a representative of Afghan women, participated in different European and Asian international women gatherings for revealing real condition of Afghan women. She has been woman activist since being 14 years old, former executive director of Organization for Promoting Afghan Women Capabilities, present director of Afghan local organization Inter to Bright Future Organization, current board member of Women's Intercultural Network, current executive board member of Network in Sweden, Action in Ummah for Afghanistan, because she was an activist for human rights and women's rights and had open activities against the wrong policies of the government and fundamentalist groups, the condition for living inside Afghanistan became difficult for her. Like other women's rights and human rights activists, she constantly threatened by unknown forces and fundamentalist warlords group. Therefore, she left Afghanistan with her family on December 2020 and living now in Europe. Thank you very much, Latifa John, for being here, and we're all ears for you. We want to listen your words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaha Jan. Hello, everyone. On behalf of Afghan women, I would like to express my deepest thanks to Women Intercultural Network for providing this opportunity and give us this platform to raise our voice for those imprisoned women in Afghanistan. Friends, just close your eyes for a moment and think that you have covered a long dress and your eyes are blue and full of tears and you can see only through a very, very small holes. You don't know where to turn, where to go. If you want to go out of the house, you need a male companionship. If your face and a part of your body is uncovered, you're beaten publicly. Again, close your eyes and put yourself on the place of those innocent girls who loves education, who wants to make their life, their future, but you're not allowed to do this. Instead, you're forced early marriage. If you want to sing a song, you are not allowed. Instead, to choke your throat. If you want to go to a stadium and do some exercise, you are not allowed. Instead, people are coming to watch the cutting body of humans and flogging of women and men in the stadium. This is not imagination. This is reality in this part of the world, a place where the world is trying to forget it. Unfortunately, you know that 4.5 years ago, US, NATO, and their alliances handed over Afghanistan to a terrorist and dark-minded group. for their military and political interest. A group that has committed suicide and explosion over 20 years and shed the blood of thousands of innocent people. A group that is as misogynist and fundamentalist that they don't even accept the physical presence of the woman in the society. In fact, the killer of the woman, the killer of the people, were made the ruler of their destiny. This long period were very difficult for all the nation, but women and girls suffered the most. Women are treated like slaves. Women are deprived of their basic rights, which is education and work. Women are flogged publicly, stoned to death, and forced married to Taliban's soldiers. And they have been systematically excluded from all sectors of the community and subjected to thousands of insult and humiliation every day. Gender-based violence was already a very serious issue in this country. According to studies, above 95% of all Afghan women have experienced some form of violence, including physical, verbal, sexual, and psychological abuses. After the arrival of Taliban in
face recognition to unlock the device.
After the arrival of Taliban in 2021, violence cases that have been documented are mostly forced and child marriages, sexual violence and harassment, arbitrary arrest of women activists, public punishment of the women, such as flogging, detention and torture of women protesting for their rights, harassment and violence for violating strict dress code. And also there are some reports of hundreds of femicide cases and also some other gender-based violence cases in social media. Today's situation in Afghanistan is worse than medieval period. People are in worse social, political, and economic condition. The situation is so bad that even those countries who were involved in bringing the Taliban in power are regretting, and they are in conflict right now. According to the documents that we have, above 20 million people are unemployed, hungry and suffering and facing poverty. People are selling their body parts to help their family to survive. They are selling their children. This is not a common word because they have to do this to save the other small ones in the family. About millions of youngs have been addicted to drugs and mental health crisis, suicide, depression reached the highest level across the country, especially among those young girls who return from neighboring countries like Iran and Pakistan. Afghanistan is becoming increasingly isolated while the extremist group continue to grow, and yet the world is watching in silence. There is also concern that Afghanistan once again enter into a civil war between these two terrorist groups, because each group is supported by different country. I'm sorry to say that if the condition continue to be like this, we will witness even worse disaster in this country. Friends, as we know, when the Taliban returned in 2021, their first target was women. As we know, that from the first day, women activists walked on the streets. Thousands of the women walked on the streets and raised their voice for justice. Unfortunately, the Taliban suppressed their voices and arrest a huge number of women activists. We saw how they arrested the women. Some of the women were beaten, some of the women tortured, and they faced ill treatment and also forced a confession. But despite of all these torture and violence, the women's voice for justice have never silenced completely. Women activists, journalists, teachers, students, all are struggling in such form of to help the women. Some of them organize courses and secret schools for girls. Others advocate for women's right from exile. So their courage just reminds us that a struggle for dignity and equality cannot easily be erased. There are some demands that Afghan women want from international community. First demand is at non-recognition of the Taliban as a formal regime. The Taliban's discrimination should not be normalized. There should be a strict pressure on Taliban. Number two, international community must impose a strict diplomatic pressure on Taliban to reopen schools and university for girls and to allow the women to make their life to work. Number three, there should be no financial assistance provided to Taliban. Women and their families should receive the humanitarian aid directly, not through the government. Number four, government institutions and all other universities can help the women and girls in Afghanistan by opening their scholarship for the girls to continue their education. I ask all human rights activists or women's activists not to forget their sister in Afghanistan. Afghanistan women are trapped between chains of terrorists inside the country. If we are working for human rights, we must not forget these humans, these women who are trapped in this country. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Latifa Jan. Appreciate your words. I'm glad that Hoda Khamush also joined us. I'm gonna introduce and we're gonna listen to Hoda Jan. Hoda Khamush is one of Afghanistan's most prominent human rights defender, a journalist, a poet, and feminist activist. She is widely recognized as one of the bravest voices advocating for women's rights under Taliban rule. Born in 1996 in Iran, where her family had taken refuge following the Taliban first rise to power, Hoda returned to Afghanistan during childhood and settled in Parwan province, north of Kabul. She studied Persian literature at the University of Sayyad and began her career as a journalist in 2015, working with local radio station and the Mandegar daily newspaper in Kabul. Even before the Taliban returned to power in August 2021, Hoda was deeply involved in empowering women and girls through underground education and awareness workshops. She is also a published poet whose verses speak of love, war, and womanhood, often drawing from her lived experience in a conflict-ridden society. After the Taliban seized control, Hoda emerged as one of the leading figures of civil resistance in Kabul. She co-founded the Afghanistan Justice Movement and organized peaceful demonstration demanding the rights to education, work, and freedom for women. In January 2022, during official peace talk in Oslo, she directly challenged Taliban representatives and demanded the release of imprisoned women activists, a courageous act that gained international attention, but also escalated threats to her and her family. Following repeated raids on her family's home and amid growing personal danger, Hoda was forced into exile. She now resides in Norway, where she continues her work as an educator, advocate, and digital activist. Despite the trauma of losing close family members, most notably the torture and execution of her mother, she remains an unwavering source of hope and resistance for Afghan women. From exile, she provides remote support and education to women still living under Taliban repression. Hoda Khamush exemplifies moral leadership, civic courage, and a deep commitment to justice and freedom. Her story is one of resistance, hope, and sacrifice, a testament to the resilience of generations of Afghan women. Welcome, Hoda Jan, to our session.
Oh, so long, Elaha. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I cannot talk English, but I'm talk Farsi. Elaha Jan translate for us. But because I'm focused in Norwegian, I forget all language. Oh, okay. Thank you, Elaha Jan. من هدا هستم، اکنون در نروژ زندگی میکنم و از زمانی که نروژ اومدم برای افغانستان کار میکنم و کار من فعلا مختص بر زنانی هستن که مورد خشونت و آزار و اذیت توسط طالبان و مردان افغانستان صورت میگیرد.
Yeah, as she said, she lives in Norway and she still continue her efforts in Afghanistan, and particularly she's focusing on the situation of Afghan women and particularly prisoners of Afghanistan inside women who are in prison in Afghanistan. Yes.
من روی کیس‌های متفاوتی کار کردم، مخصوصا زنانی که زندانی مورد زندانی طالبان قرار گرفتن، آزادشان کردیم، مورد کیساشون بررسی کردیم، تداویشان کردیم و همچنان روانشناس برایشان گرفتیم و بالاخره به کشورهای امن انتقالشان دادیم.
She said she worked on many specific cases of Afghan women who were in prison. She raised their cases, got psychological support for them, followed their case to be released from prison, and also be in a safe environment, probably outside Afghanistan.
داستان‌ها وحشتناک هستند، گرچه که نمیتونم همه داستان‌ها را اینجا بازگو بکنم، ولی همه زن‌هایی که من برایشان کار میکنم و انتقالشان میدم به شدت آسیب پذیر از نگاه روحی، جسمی و حتی فامیلی هستند که اینها را سپورت نمیکنن، چه از نگاه مالی چه از نگاه احساسی. در کل دست به خودکشی‌های متعدد زدن تا بالاخره راه نجات پیدا کرده.
And she said the women who in Afghanistan, and particularly women who are in prison, are under a huge, psychological pressure, and they lose hope, and many of them try to commit suicide. But so the work of Hoda Khamush is focused on supporting these women, bringing up their cases, probably with the help of the lawyers internationally, and also provide support both financially and psychologically to these women.
ما اکنون با یک مدت طولانی با کابل لطفرکه که یک بخشی یک پروگرام از آلمان ها هست. ما زنان را انتقال دادیم اما این پروسه بسته شد. اکنون با پروسه دیگری ما پروسه دیگری روی دست گرفتیم.
What was اون اسم اون چیز بود آلمان چی؟
کابل لطف بروکه.
کابل لطف
بروکه.
Brücke. She said she was working with an organization in Germany, Kabul Lokbrufert, to support the effort that Hoda Khamush is doing, but that project is ended and she is now شما الان دنبال جاهای دیگه هستین که پروژه‌تون رو
پروژه دیگه با همین سازمان یک جای دیگه روی شاگردایی گرفتیم که دختر خانمایی گرفتیم که آسیب پذیر هستن از سن 15 الی 26 ساله که ما اینا رو زبان آلمانی درس میدیم. بعد از یادگیری زبان آلمانی اینا رو ما انتقال میدیم برای آلمان با ویزای کار.
بله بسیار عالی. She said that that project was ended, but they're now getting another project to help the woman between the age of 15 and 26 with the support of that German organization. They teach them the language of Germany, and then they arrange for bringing them to Germany and with the visa, so they be able to work in Germany, and they prepare them, of course, as she said beforehand, to speak some German language.
فعلا 100 دختر خانم تحت پوشش ما هستن، درس میخوان که ما کردیت به اونا دادخواهی میکنیم و موارد لوجستیکی که بتونن تحصیلاتشون ادامه بدن.
She said currently there are 100 young women under this project, and the organization of Hoda, in collaboration with that German organization, provides support so they can study in Germany, and they have a visa for work so they can establish their life in a safe environment in Germany.
در پهلوش ما کارهای متفاوت دیگه هم به خاطر جندر آپارتاید، اعتراضات و دادخواهی‌ها، کلاس‌های مخفی در داخل افغانستان انجام میدم.
She said that in addition to her effort about helping Afghan women prisoners and bringing Afghan young women to Germany, and these supportive efforts, she has educational webinars and classes, of course, inside Afghanistan via internet technology, and educate them about gender apartheid and other aspect of gender, how they can find a way for living their life, basically support and other things.
و همچنان در نروژ روی کنفرانس های کار میکنم که اولین کنفرانس ما در 8 مارس تحت دادخواهی برای از آگاهی تا عدالت برای جندر آپارتاید بود با 2 پنل اختصاصی که توانستیم صدای قوی در 8 مارس باشیم.
Yeah, I attended that. So she said also in Norway, they just organized a conference which I attended, and I was following that, from awareness to justice, because the theme of this year CSW is justice. That was the theme of their conference on March 8th, just a couple of days ago, and so they try to also organize and raise awareness about gender apartheid in Afghanistan.
اینها را میگویم به خاطر اینکه همانطوری که زنان افغانستان مورد سرکوب و تهدید و نابرابری قرار گرفتن، در همین حالت هم مبارزه میکنن و ایستاده هستند.
She said, I'm sharing these things because while this is the situation of women in Afghanistan, as we heard from her, we heard from Mersel, and we heard from Latifa Jan, while the situation of women in Afghanistan is very, very discriminatory beyond words, as we all know, but Afghan women never ceased resistance and fighting for their rights and for a better life and other things.
و همچنان توجه شما را میخوایم و از جهان میخوایم برای دست از تعامل با طالبان بردارن و توجه جدی به وضعیت زنان افغانستان داشته باشند.
And she said that this is our demand to international community that, as Latifa John and Mercer John also mentioned, emphasized, the world should not recognize Taliban government and need to pressure government for the rights of women, this human rights violation in all aspects of it in Afghanistan.
تشکر الهه جان عزیز از ترجمه. امیدوارم بتونیم موفق بشیم.
Thank you very much, Hoda Jan. I hope I did some level of accuracy in translating what you said. Thank you for being here. Hoda is such a wonderful girl. We connected with all these three speakers, when they settle in Europe, and I'm glad we have the voice of them in this session. So now we can open for Q&A. If you have a question, please put it in chat or maybe raise question if we can address for any of our speakers. It's open for Q&A now. I have one question for Marcel or any of you, that in 2023, when I went with the delegation of Women's Intercultural Network to Afghanistan, of course, Dr. Huquq Mal was the Minister of Women at the time, and we had a meeting with her. And I took the translation of CEDAW, the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, to Dr. Huquq Mal. And of course, this was really a chaotic situation in Afghanistan. They were trying to establish, different agencies. It was huge crisis at the time. So now what I want to ask basically this question of all of you, but particularly Marcel, who is very active on this gender apartheid, how the global community can hold Afghanistan accountable for these conventions that like particularly CEDAW?
Well, this is an interesting question. I think, first of all, I'm so happy that the accountability mechanism was proceed, and this is a very important step. And also the ICC, ICJ, and all those actions, the tribunal in Spain was really amazing, and these are the positive steps that we are taking for making the Taliban accountable. This is a really hard situation to talk about this, because sometimes as human rights defenders, we want more sanctions on the Taliban, or sanctions and the bans on the Taliban. Of course, first of all, this giving more opportunities and platforms to the Taliban to come and to talk, to be involved with the with the international community, like today in Germany. Human rights defenders and exiled people are so afraid of that. Germany is giving the Taliban this much credibility, and also giving them the consulate to be there. This is a huge threat for all of us. For accountability, we are protesting in the streets for our rights, for Afghanistan rights, but these countries are giving them more chance and opportunity to insult us, to suppress us and the women of Afghanistan. This is important to ban them from traveling other countries. And I think this is it could be better if we put sanctions on the countries who are supporting even the Taliban.
Like today, there are so many countries in Afghanistan, they are exploiting the mines, like the Chinese, the Russians, some other Asian countries around and in the neighborhood. These actions can help and support women and give more visibility for the women and to talk the women. Like today, Norway or Norwegian government is hosting the Taliban multiple times, but like I have never been in Norway to talk about human rights, about gender equality, about gender apartheid. But the Taliban are there most of the time and they're talking. So the Doha process, like today, even the Taliban are going to Doha and they're negotiating with the other countries, not with us, not with women. They don't sit with Afghanistan women. They negotiate on our rights with the other countries, with the international community, which the international community is not the victim of the Taliban, it's us. They would be in the long term. The Taliban are inspiring so many radical and terrorist groups, but still it's us directly. What I really recommend is without us, there is no decisions for us. We wouldn't accept any decision, any progress, any process with the direct involvement of Afghanistan women. They should be there, they should be have their voices, and they should have their own conditions. So we don't want to engage with the Taliban on those ways that the other countries are imposing on us, like they did before. They did this Doha, we call it contract, the Doha process. And these are the steps we can make the Taliban accountable. The sanctions, more sanctions on their traveling, on adding them on the blacklist like we had today. So it was also, I appreciate it, but also splitting or separating the people from the Taliban. The country is not the Taliban's country. It is governed by the Taliban, which against our will, but it's not their country. It's our country. The people should make their decisions on the country. The people should have their platforms, have talk, and to make decisions on their own country, but not the other countries, not the Taliban. Any process without us wouldn't be credible for us, wouldn't be, we wouldn't accept that any of them to be imposed by the other countries. While also I believe bombing is not a situation, not a solution. The wars are not the solution. Today, with this war, current war between the Taliban and Pakistan, still the people are more being victims of these wars, the children, the women, and the economical situation is hard for women and children and the civilians more than the Taliban. So yeah, how we can make them accountable, we should put more sanctions on the leaders, on the Taliban, and bring them to the justice, to support the mechanisms, the gender apartheid, codification of gender apartheid would be another kind of accountability. These are what I believe for now. In the process, maybe we will come with more solutions.
Thank you. I want to ask this question. Is there any question from the, have you seen any? Okay, there is a question. There is a question in the chat. If Hodajan or Latifajan, if you want to respond to, have you seen any misrepresentation of gender apartheid in Afghanistan in Western media? What do you wish more people knew about the lived reality of women and girls in Afghanistan? This is open for Latifajan, and Lenka's also raised hand. So let's respond to this question, then we go to Lenka's. Latifajan, or if you want to respond to this question. Or Hodajan, any of you?
Yes, okay, Latifajan.
Hodajan, we have 5 questions, I think. Can you decide to answer any of them, and then if any
Yes. میتونید شما جواب بدید، مربوط شما میشه.
هدى جان خودت بفرما چند تا سوال سر کدام شک جواب میدی، باز چیزی که من جواب میدم.
چون من کارم کار مخفی برای دختر هستم، من سوال دوم جواب میدم. بهتر است برای جندر آپارتاید خود جواب بدی، عالی است. من اینجا دوست ما گفته است که ما میتونیم کمک بکنیم برای دخترها برای مکاتب مسئله را خواندم. بله ما میتونیم، اگر شما بخواین ما میتونیم کمک بکنیم بدون شک. ما در این اواخر هم برای آخرین کنفرانسی که در سازمان ملل گرفته شده بود ما پیام خود ارسال کردیم و گفتیم که زنان افغانستان به حمایت نیاز دارند، نه حمایتی که برای طالبا بره و اونا را تقویت بکنه برای اینکه بتونن دوباره از استفاده جندر آپارتاید بتونن زنان را سرکوب بکنن. ما میتونیم آموزش مخفی داشته باشیم، ما میتونیم گروه های مخفی در داخل افغانستان داشته باشیم که اکنون هم کار میکنن، تلاش میکنن و ما میتونیم برای زنان کار بکنیم که فردا در مقابل همدیگر بلند نشوند. ما اکنون زنهایی را داریم که با استفاده از مخشویی، استفاده دینی و مذهبی تلاش میکنن زنان را در مقابل هم جنس هایشان بلند بکنن و مانع کار، تلاش و تحصیلشان شوند.
In short, Hodajan went too fast, but in short, Hodajan said we do need the support of global community to help women of Afghanistan. We can utilize that, and we can have underground classes, educational forums for women in Afghanistan. We can, with the support, we can bring some of them, you know, to a safe environment. They do need the support of global community. And of course, I want to add, with internet technology, the situation is way better. Even though women might not have access to technology, many women in Afghanistan, but there are ways around that. We know that with the use of technology. So definitely Hodajan's saying that we do need, and I would appreciate if Hodajan, you want to put the name of your organization, any of you, all three of you, if you put the name of your organization in the chat in case people want to send support to you. So I want to go to Lenka's iPhone, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, please.
Hello, my name is Lenka Katil. Actually, iPhone is not my after-name, but I'm a physician from Sweden, and as that I would like to ask about the women's health situation. Of course, it is known that there is gender inequalities or discrimination in the Afghan women's right to decide about their body, about their reproductive health, and so on. And I am wondering how much the numbers which are official are right and really reflect the situation, what is there. And the next, how much the volunteer organizations like Red Cross, Médecins Sans Frontières, etc., are able to come to a country to help these women and help with these situations.
Thank you. Any of you, any Latifa, John, Marcel, any of you want to respond to it?
Yeah, well, so I would answer this question and then I will go to answer one or two questions in the chat because I'm in another conference in another city and maybe I will leave a bit earlier. So I would answer some questions about the reproductive health in Afghanistan. All the medical system is collapsed. We have nothing at all. Like the malnutrition statistics are so high. Most of the people are under the line of poverty. So yeah, we like everything is this collapsed there, all the health system. We don't have statistics. We don't have really the correct statistics of how many children are died, how many women, pregnant women does not have access to the education, the medical support in remote areas, which even before the Taliban was not like incredibly accessible, but now it's even worse and worse, and every day it's worse than the day before. So we don't have these exact statistics. We have the reports about malnutrition sometimes. We have how much the people are under the line of poverty, which I think more than 90%. I don't remember the statistics, but there are some organizations, especially WHO, which gives statics sometimes. So yeah, it is horrible. It's like a nightmare, the medical system for the women. Just imagine, if you can imagine, like for the past almost 5 years, no women was graduated from school, from university, from medical departments. So in a country which we even before had the lack of the women doctors, nurses, and caretakers. So what is happening today? And even with all the wars and conflicts in the neighborhood, and stopping the Taliban's trades with the Pakistan, which we cannot have the medical support that the business people or men or women, not women. So we have mostly the men who run the companies. They were bringing the medications from Pakistan. It's banned. So with the India, the Taliban, they are saying they are having good trades, but still it's not visible for the people. It's collapse and in the worst situation that you can imagine. Okay.
Mursal, excuse me. I would like to add a little bit to this question, and then you can continue with the other question. Yeah, I absolutely agree with Mursal. Situation is very worse. After the collapse of the collapse of the country, all the institution collapse, and all the doctors and the professor, they left the country, and there is no well treatment. And I have few example of my own family that they were sick and there was no doctor inside Afghanistan, unfortunately, due to lack of instrument, lack of medicine, and no doctor. My father-in-law passed away just for very small sickness. So this is just a live example that I have 2 weeks ago. And it is just an example. But women, also I have example of the women. I have been in direct contact with women who give birth. There is no doctors in the hospital, women, nurse to help her, gynecologist. There is no one there. And they are under pressure. And two of my near family member, they lost their baby, and one lost their life because of lack of treatment and lack of medicine, and nothing is available in the country. It is very horrible at the moment. And also that was my request as a woman, just if humanitarian aid from the international community or sending to Afghanistan, they must be they must know that the aid or reach to the people, to the needy people, not to the government, because in the past we know, and we have a lot of reports that all the aids come through Taliban, and Taliban take much of the aids, and the remaining reach to those who are not so much in need. This is our request, that to make sure that the aids are arrived in the safe place, with civil community that are working, with people like working outside, as Huda said that they are working because she's in direct contact with those people inside Afghanistan. Mursal, maybe I myself in Sweden, sometimes we just gather and we have a network for Afghanistan, and we try to send privately, not through the government, not through the other big institutions.
Thank you very much. Marcel, since you said you have another conference to attend, if you want to respond to some question, we still have a good time that Hoda and Latifa John can respond to them.
I'm going to answer the 3 first questions, and I let the Latifa John and Hoda John their comments and their answers for the rest. But if any question maybe you can have later or anything else, you can. I wrote my WhatsApp number and my email, so you can write me. And also Hoda John did the same thing Latifa John would do. How we can, as civilians, how we can continue supporting Afghanistan women. First of all, talking about them. Like today, among all these conflicts, of course, the women in Sudan, the women in Iran, the women in Palestine, the women everywhere, they deserve to be talked in Ukraine. And these are huge wars and crises against us, especially against women. First of all, for me, it's against women, all the wars around the world, because the women and the children are the first victims of the wars because of our bodies, because of our sexuality, because of our sex, and all those things. So our bodies are the first battle that the wars are against. How we can support, we talk about them. We really talk about them, and we do not let them to be forgotten. In our countries, we are going to vote. This is important. Like, I'm so sorry if maybe some of, I don't know which profile is in this panel, but whatever is going in United States right now against women. So I think, and the people who voted for Trump, this affects all the world, the Iran right now, the Afghanistan, Gaza, everywhere around the world. Your duty as your citizen, for your being citizen of your countries, to vote. This is very important, and it will impact us directly as well. Talking about them, if you know the people inside Afghanistan, to support them individually, if you know the organizations, to support the organizations, that would be a huge support for Afghanistan women. How you can safely finance organization and people in Afghanistan, this is a question for us as well. I launched my podcast recently, and in the podcast we talk about menstruation health, about the social taboos, about the women body, which never talk about. We talk about everything there that is considered as shame and taboo. Sometimes I have to pay for some women to talk, at least for their internet. And when I go to do this transaction, if it's Western Union or MoneyGram, any of them, they ask me which resources this is coming from. And of course, it's coming from my own salary, and I have to justify for them that I'm a journalist and I'm paying this as a gift for my friend. So these are the ways we use. Sometimes it's Hawala. I think there was this system, a girl made it from Afghanistan, which they did for Syria as well. I forgot the name, and became so famous in US, and in US media, they were talking about. This is another way how you can support. Education is safe. Nothing is safe for women in that country. Nothing at all. Even breathing, it's not safe. You have to justify yourself for going out to see a doctor, to buy something, to breathe outside the house. Everything you do, you have to justify that, and you can be punished for the actions that is not considered as crime, that we cannot consider them as crime. For talking loud, you can be punished. So everything is, which I keep insisting to tell this, is everything is crime in Afghanistan for women. So we shouldn't give up. Like, it's not safe, so we don't do that. No, we do that, but we try to do them in a very cautious way, pay attention and protect them. But still, everything is dangerous. So we cannot stop living because it's dangerous to live in that country. If I will answer this last question, and I will go, the misrepresentation of the gender apartheid in Afghanistan in Western media. This is something that bothers me a lot since 2021. I am living in France. Sorry.
Right before you leave the.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't know if it's a question or mic is unmuted. So yeah, this feeds me up a lot since 2021 that I'm living in France. First of all, the first days in the Western media, it was like the Taliban are heroes. Like today, the way they are welcoming the Syrian Jawlani, how they welcomed him, and like showing a very polished face of the Taliban. They are changed. The system is going to be changed. They are not like how they was in the past 20 years. But we saw they were the same. They were not changed. They are the same, and they would be the same because it's the question of the power, the male power, and the patriarchal. So if they suppress the women, they could keep the power forever. So yes, this. In France, I see this a lot, that there are the influencers who go to Afghanistan, film themselves with Kalashnikovs, with the Taliban, telling them Afghanistan is insecurity right now. There is no killings. There are no robbery. We went to this place. We went to this restaurant. The Taliban are feeding them for free. So they're trying to give this image of Afghanistan. and no one talk about the situation with women. I was translating a documentary for France 5 from the 5 TV. It was the journalist went to Afghanistan to the places that they were destroyed by the floods and by the earthquake, and they were profiling the children, how poor they are. The specific question of this journalist was, what is the consequences of the cut off the funds by the Trump on Afghanistan women? And they were just documenting the children who were malnutrited, who were in the tents, who were affected by these floods and earthquakes. That was of course, the economical situation is important, but that was the only struggle this journalist had. Not the women situation, not the women that they're dying because of not having access to medication, to the education, to the freedom to be represented in the society. These are kind of normalizing the Taliban in different ways, which not paying attention to the women. Even sometimes there are Afghans from Afghanistan and US and Europe, when they go to Afghanistan and come back and you ask, how was the situation? They will say, oh, it was normal, just it's a bit hard for the women, but the rest were okay. There isn't war. No, there is the war. There is the war against women, against society, against the future. There is just not war against the Taliban because they're collaborating with Al-Qaeda, they're collaborating with ISIS, they are making Afghanistan a safe place for different terroristic groups. What is the war today between the Taliban and Pakistan? It is the war that the Taliban are feeding and nourishing the terrorism inside Afghanistan. So there isn't a war against the Taliban, but of course against the women and all the other people, the minorities, the economical situation. So there are so many efforts on normalizing the Taliban and the gender apartheid and the slavery today in Afghanistan. What do you wish more people knew about the lived reality for women and girls in Afghanistan? Today, since this morning, I am going to talk in different places in a city in France. I had I was lecturing a class in a school in France, and I told them they're all the girls and boys under 17, and I told them majority of girls in your age in Afghanistan are mothers today. They are married, they have children, they have this huge responsibility of super violent men who are raping them in Afghanistan, abusing them, too much labor, really, like as Paris says, too much labor on them, and they're only 17, 13, 14. If you have daughters and you see them, they're 17, they're 13, they're 14. Just imagine in their age in Afghanistan, the girls are forcing to be married because they don't have another future, because there isn't any other thing for them there. Their families and society is just making them or forcing them to give birth to married and just to have a shelter on their head. That's the reality of Afghanistan that we don't think. If we see our daughters 17, just imagine that most of the girls in that country is now in their age are married or going to be forced to marry. This is kind of reality in that country now.
Thank you, Marcel John.
Thank you so much. I think I spoke a lot. I will leave the floor to Huda John and all of you, Latifa John and Elaha John.
Thank you. There is a question, I think, because the team, we were talking about gender apartheid. I want to ask this question, and maybe Latifa John or Huda also can respond to it. It's that it's about gender apartheid, and if gender apartheid were to be codified, what is the next step would or could be taken? So I know that the Convention on the Crimes Against Humanity is a work in progress at UN, and gender apartheid is an article of it. But imagine that with the current situation of Taliban bringing all this misery and devastation to the country, gender apartheid is codified. It's another layer, international law like CEDAW, but what should we expect in a country like Afghanistan?
Well, it will take time, as all of us know here. It will take mostly 10 years almost. So it would be, if it would be codified. We don't know in 10 years. Well, maybe we should, it's better if we ask legal advisor or legal person who is really aware legally about the consequences, but I will just share what I know and I understand. And it's this is a long process, and after 10 years, if this is codified, so the Taliban and any other parties and groups who were committed this apartheid, they wouldn't be the freedom of impunity, like they wouldn't be accountable for anything that they have done in the past. The good thing is apartheid is not only in Afghanistan. Of course, the Afghanistan and the Iranian people, women, we started this initiative and the campaign, and it also goes back to the 90s. The special reporter called this in UN for the first time, but until now we are continuing to talk about it. It will affect the Iran regime, the so many other countries whose women rights are being violated and not respected. It would have a consequences on them, and also they could be like the cases can be treated as an international violence against humanity, not just a local and national crime. So it would go under this international crimes, and it could be like the governments and the states who would sign the hopefully if it's a convention or the apartheid. So I assume it would support in this way. But really, maybe it's better if a legal advisor can explain what would happen the next exactly. But that is what I learned and I can share for now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. One of the questions that was asked, I want to ask Latifa John if you can also respond, because this was one of the.
Sorry, can I just say goodbye and leave with and then let you to continue? I'm so sorry, I'm in a rush.
Thank you for being here. Personal will be in touch. Yeah,
Mursal John, excuse me, because you're more involved in code and all these things. So if you can answer the first question of, I will answer the others. The first question of Nila Rida. It is about how are the ICA proceedings against the Taliban impacted by the Taliban? If you answer this, so I will answer the others.
As I'm really in rush, and in 10 minutes I have to attend this conference, which is in the hall of the same hotel that I am staying. But I can note the questions, and I will, if any of you can contact me on my phone, my email, I would answer. I'm so sorry, I have to leave. Maybe you can answer whatever you are expert and you want to, and the rest I would try to do it in person. Thank you so much, everyone. If you're interested in stories and I don't know, whatever is going in Afghanistan in a very feminine and feminist point of view, you can go to my Substack, and I write about this all the time, and you would read it there. Thank you so much, and for being here, for listening, and for being beside us. We appreciate it. Thank you, Alaha John, and everyone. Have a good time.
Thank you.
Huda John, Latifa John, thank you so much. Bye. See you soon.
Latifa John, do you want to respond to the question, or Huda John?
Yes. Which question, Ramit? I'm sorry. I have a lot of guests today, and they are asking me again and again. So, which question was Ramit? So, there was one from Saskia. How can we help the? Yeah, can we safely finance organization people in Afghanistan for secret education? Of course, we can do, which we are doing right now. As Huda said, that she also is in contact with a lot of women and needy women, those people who are already in need, and also with others. I also work here, and of course, we worked 20 years in Afghanistan, and we have a very, very heavy connection with people and with women, and all of them are not abroad right now. And they are inside Afghanistan, they are living there, and they are working. So at the moment, we also have secret courses for the girls. and through different ways that we can. So there are possibility at we go not through a big organization, through government, but there are people that have experience in that area, and they also had the past experience when Taliban were in power for the first time. So there are people that are doing right now. So if we have a good connection with them, if we have the arrange that have a plan, so we can reach them directly.
بس ما میخوایم همین سوال جواب بدم.
خدا
ما
جان بفرمایید.
لاله جان، ما همیال 13 تا کلاس مخفی دارم در داخل افغانستان که در خود کابل و ولایت مثل پروان و مزار شریف و هرات هستند و همچنان جاغوری. اینا ولایت هایی هستن که نام گرفتم. اینا مخفیانه آموزش میبینن و ما آموزش ها را به صورت علنی برای آموزش اسلامی و دینی نامگذاری کردیم. ولی آموزش دخترها روی زبان انگلیسی است، روی مهارت هاست، روی یادگیری چگونه توصیه دادن تجارت های خانگی است. اینا رو ما آموزش میدیم و کار میکنیم روی زنها تا اونا خودشان فراموش نکنن، هنرشان فراموش نکنن.
Okay, that's great. Hoda Jan explained that they have her organization have 13 different classes in Parvan, Mazar Sharif, and Kabul, the three main area that they providing this service, these classes, underground classes, and although they are under the name of religious religious teachings and education, but actually these classes are being provided in English or German, Hoda?
English.
Yeah, they provided these classes in English, so they learn the language and also create. They provide a good environment for promoting the art and crafts of women and be able to small, to produce something and sell it, so that these are to be able not to forget that the desire of perhaps economic independence to some scale level and learning a language so they can stay in touch with the rest of the world. Like income generating projects and also learning language.
Yes.
Thank you for
ما
that.
سوال دومم میخوایم جواب بدم در مورد if gender apartheid will be could flight what next stop should be include Texan. ما اگر برای رسمیت شناختن آپارتاید جنسیتی در داخل افغانستان فکر بکنیم، دقیقا ما میتونیم برابری جنسیتی را به رسمیت بشناسیم. یعنی همان گونه که در اروپا، آمریکا و کشورهای دیگه زن و مرد مساویانه کار میکنن و اگر کسی برخلاف این کار قدم بگذاره مورد جرایم نقدی یا هم موارد دیگه صورت میگیره، این میتونه قانون گذاری شود و دیگر از سرکوب زنها، رفتار خشونت آمیز با زنها، با عوض کردن سیاست ها و سرکوب زنان، عوض شدن دولت ها با حذف کردن زنها ما میتونیم مقابل شویم. یعنی هر زمانی که سیاست ها در داخل افغانستان عوض میشه، در اینجا زنها سرکوب میشوند، زنها نادیده گرفته میشن، زنها مورد تبعیض و نابرابری قرار میگیرند. با رسمیت شناختن آپارتاید جنسیتی و عوض شدن سیاست ها در داخل افغانستان ما میتونیم حفاظت از حقوق زنها، حفاظت از برابری جنسیتی، حفاظت از عدالت و برابری بین زن مرد را نگه داریم و باعث نشه که زنها، مردها با تغییر رژیم ها بزرگ، یعنی فکر بکنن که قدرت دست اونهاست و میتونن زنها را مورد سرکوب قرار بگیرن و از اونها استفاده بکنن.
Yeah, Hoda, in short, Hoda Jan was sharing her thoughts on gender apartheid, that once this been codified, then the woman in Afghanistan can hold the people in position of power accountable for those for the rights that under that gender apartheid, or like other international law, we can hold the government accountable. Um, well, I want to go back to Latifa Jan. Latifa Jan, do you want to add anything to this?
Yes, as Huda said about this, and also Mursal also has said something about this. I think if the gender apartheid be recognized by international community, of course that this will be this will give the Afghan women some hope that we are not forgotten by the international community. And of course, if it be recognized formally, so the next step will be that all the country, all the international community who were involved in this process of Doha and all these bringing the Taliban in power, of course, they can collectively put pressure on them and take them away, because it become formal that it is apartheid there. So the next step will be that Afghan women will find the chance to have their place again in the community as a human being.
Thank you very much. I think we are reaching to the end of the time. Is there any other questions? If you
one question more, Elaha John, there was something that the women organization that collaborate with the Taliban. I think I just want to briefly go to that.
Sure.
Yes, of course. When we are criticizing Taliban, they are not only men. They are Taliban can be also women, and Taliban have their groups. They have their women groups. 2 times, 3 times, we witnessed that the Taliban's women go out of the street and just raised slogan for the defense of the Taliban, just to show that there are people that supporting us. So, of course, for their confirmation that they are okay, they are doing well, there is security, there is all this, and women are working. Of course, they just keep these as a symbolic. And they need these organizations to do for them. They have a lot of names of the women, but I don't want to mention the names that they are living in outside Afghanistan and European country, but still they are working for the benefits of the Taliban. So for me as a woman activist that I have experienced a long history and I have witnessed the real situation of the women, these are not our representatives. They are not the women that work for the women and to help the women to get their rights. So they are just supporting the Taliban, and this is the goal of the Taliban. That's why they created these groups. So we don't have any connection with these groups, and it is not for our benefits.
Thank you very much, Latifa Jan. I think we reached to the end of our time for this session. Please follow Women's Intercultural Network and follow us on social media. Afghan Circle is one of the circles that we really follow and pay attention to what's happening in Afghanistan. And we provide platforms for Afghan women activists, and definitely we'll be in touch with both Latifa Jan and Hoda Jan and Marcel for the wonderful work they're doing for women in Afghanistan in solidarity and peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elaha Jan, and everybody who listened to us. I hope that we could be able to answer the questions, but as much as we had in mind, so we share with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hodajan, for being.
تشكر إلهة جان، تشكر أزهمت. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.